Become a system preferences superhero by looking into some of the additional features that you can utilize within system preferences that we haven't yet talked about in any portion of our orientation. So, looking at your system preferences, which you can access by going to your Apple and clicking System Preferences, the first one that I wanted to talk about is just date and time, which you find in your fourth row down. So clicking on date and time, it allows you to adjust these features, but one that you might not have thought of is the clock option, which is the third tab over. And this is where you can determine if you even want to see your date and time in your menu bar, and you can determine how, if you do want to see it, you want that to appear, whether digital and analog, and some additional preferences within there. You can also choose to announce the time at certain time periods if that's something helpful with running your class, potentially keeping you and students kind of on track of different time periods. So something to think about with that. Okay, with system preferences, if you click the back arrow, it'll take you back to the main page. The next one I want to talk about is your notifications, and that's in the top right corner of your top row. When you first get your computer, typically notifications is defaulted to be on for different applications, and you may want to turn it off if you don't like some of the notifications you are getting. It tells you over here on the left all the different notifications you could potentially get for your different applications. So for example, if you use the Apple Mail, you might be getting banners, and banners are little messages that kind of slide in the top right that tell you when you have a new mail message or just give you different announcements, okay? And those can even become alerts with different options as well. But if you don't want to see those, which I generally don't, you can turn those off. But that's a personal preference thing. Some people really like having the banners show up. So it might be something you want to turn on. And that's just an example within Mail with the banners, but you can see you have these for every application. So if you're noticing some alerts are turned on for an application, yet you don't like those, this is where you come to turn them off. That's your notification center. At the top of notifications is Do Not Disturb, and this is a good one to look at as well. And you have the option here to turn on Do Not Disturb, which means you don't get any notifications, potentially like when your computer is sleeping, which is nice, and also when mirroring to TVs and projectors. So like when you're projecting in front of a class, you likely don't want notifications coming through. So it's probably good to have that one checked as well. So those are just some features within notifications that it's kind of important to know about with your computer. Going back, on the third row down, your first option is your iCloud. iCloud allows you to connect with Apple's cloud system and really enhances productivity if you have multiple Apple devices. Now, this is a personal preference thing. If you have an Apple ID, you can activate it here on your district provided computer, and then it allows you to sync and share items between applications from your computer to your phone or your iPad potentially. If you don't want that to happen and you want to have a separate iCloud account kind of for personal versus professional, that's totally okay as well. And you could create a new professional iCloud account that you just utilize on your district computer. But once you're in iCloud, you can decide how you want items shared between this iCloud account and potentially other iCloud accounts as well. And this is where you come to do that. So you turn on your iCloud account in this window and then toggle through your options over here for what you want talking in the cloud system. If you ever have more questions about this and how to utilize it, please don't hesitate to contact me and I can help you work out how to best utilize your iCloud. The final one that I want to talk about in this portion of the video is accessibility. Accessibility is in your fourth row down, second one in from the right. And there's a lot of features within this that could be very beneficial for you or potentially some of your students. Okay, so it's worthwhile to scroll through this and see if any of them are worth you utilizing. I referenced speech in the keyboard shortcuts. I'll also reference it here that if you turn on speech, there's a default keyboard shortcut for Option Escape where you can highlight text and have that text spoken aloud to you. Out of all of these, this might be the one that's used more frequently. There's also one here for zooming, like zooming in on text, making things bigger. So that's some good accessibility to know about as well. So if you haven't yet played around in the accessibility, it's maybe worthwhile to do that. And the final one that I did want to mention, if you have any students who are hearing impaired and yet have alerts on their computer, you can check this one, the flash the screen when an alert sound occurs, and the screen will flash since they might not necessarily hear that alert sound. So that's a good accessibility feature. Okay, so that lives within your system preferences, and those are some of the additional ones that I wanted to highlight. There's even more in here. You're always welcome to look and play around in your preferences to become your own system preferences superhero.